Welcome back to Secret Society of Man. I am here with my podcaster, Zach, and we are ready to go. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Perfect. Our first story that we have today is for a deputy sheriff, or in fact, I don't even think it's a deputy. I think it is the sheriff. For those that don't know, I'll just clarify real quick. A deputy sheriff is just a normal deputy you see driving around the roads, taking calls for service. The sheriff is the boss. It's almost like a CEO of a company, okay? The sheriff of Letcher County, Kentucky. I looked it up online. It's like the furthest east county in Kentucky, right next to Virginia on the border there. Essentially shot his colleague / I guess coworker, as they would call it, of a long time in a judge meeting area. It was like their quarters or whatever they call it. Now, this sheriff...
He shot the judge, right?
The judge.
Okay, yeah.
So the sheriff, who is named Mickey Steins, it sounds like. Mickey Steins, he's 43 years old. Again, shot the district judge, who is his colleague, they call it. Now, the reason why they call him his colleague is because apparently in Kentucky, it's common practice for the sheriff of that county to be their, like, main protector. That's, like, their thing. So that obviously doesn't happen here in Minnesota, but in Kentucky, that's the thing. So when you become sheriff, you kind of are, like, the bodyguard of this judge, per se, of the county, okay? So it sounds like hours before the shooting, they had lunch together, they were conversing just fine, and all of a sudden, a couple hours later, people report gunshot sounds coming from the judge quarters. They see this judge, last name Mullins, Judge Mullins, is laying on the ground with several gunshots to the chest and abdomen area on the ground, basically pronounced dead at the scene, with Steins standing there over his body, right?
Yeah, so I've heard a couple different people speculate on this. I mean, as you're researching it, you're reading people's comments, and you hear all sorts of things that may or may not be true. But I did hear that there was an argument that took place. So, I mean, yes, there was people saying that they were acting normal and they were getting ready to go out to lunch, like buddies. But I did hear somewhere in there was an argument. Now, I don't know if that meant they argued before the gunshots or if there was some sort of ongoing argument between them about some issue. Ultimately, we don't know what that was about. Hopefully it comes out because it is a huge mystery. But I'm just thinking about the way that he went about it. Like, he just shot him in cold blood in the middle of the courthouse in his chambers. Yes. He was the only one in the room, and he didn't try to flee in any way. And I try to think about what are some of the reasons somebody would kill somebody, but then what are some of the reasons somebody would go about it like that, just blatant, not trying to get away. Now, I know that the the police department has a case going on where one of the officers is being investigated because he coerced a suspect and offered essentially to keep them out of jail if she agreed to have sex for 6 months in that judge's chambers, which is interesting. Okay. So there was that drama going on in that sheriff's department. Could be maybe related to that. I mean, some people speculated that maybe he was trying to cover something up related to that. But if it was like a covert trying to cover something up, you would think that he would then make some effort to not make it obvious that it was him. Like, if he's trying to get away with something, he would try to be sneaky about it. In my opinion, like, the kind of thing that motivates somebody to just go out there and cold-blooded kill somebody is like an emotional thing. Like, like if somebody like catches someone molesting their daughter or something like that. Well, that can motivate somebody to just say, well, I'm just going to go and I'm just going to get it done, get some justice for my kid, and go out and just shoot somebody and not try to get away with it. Just like they just want it taken care of, and they know they're not going to get away with it, but that's just what they feel they have to do. So, like, I wonder if there was something like that. You got to think that he's going to, I mean, he obviously can't get away with it. There is no, I'm going to get out of this, right? He has zero alibi. There's nothing he can do, and he probably knows that. So I'm hoping he takes the opportunity to get on the stand and at least tell his side of it. And even though he's definitely going to prison, well, at least we'll have answers to this.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. It doesn't even sound like there's some self-defense. Like, the guy, you would think, like, if it was in any type of self-defense, he would have said something initially, like, as they would put a statement of, he said it was in self-defense, and then later on they'd, like, get more info on it. But it sounds like you said, he kind of just did the deed and left it at that. So it might be like some weird love triangle or something, because
Right, maybe.
in reality, this judge is only 11 years older than he is. It's not like out of the realm of possibility that like maybe this woman was also like dealing with this judge or something, or I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Now, I do have a question for you. So when you go to court as a police officer,
Yeah.
are you allowed to bring your weapon into court?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're
All right.
exempt from all the federal stuff. And,
Interesting.
yeah.
I wonder if that'll change now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't, that's super interesting, because it's kind of like a similar thing of like, police can wear their guns at airports. You know
Right.
what I mean? It's kind of
Because I was wondering, does that indicate that it was something that was planned if he had maneuvered a weapon into the courtroom? But I guess not if they just always have one. So
Yeah, and remember, he is the sheriff. So,
Right.
you know what I mean? I mean, now granted, there's federal laws, but still, like, when you're the sheriff, I mean, you can kind of make some things happen, So
yeah, I guess we'll have to see what happens there. And what comes of that.
I don't know. Well, like you said, I'm curious to see what the bailiffs thought. Like, when you went in there, was he standing over the body? Was he further away? Was like part of his clothes torn up? What's the information here? So
And he didn't make any statements
no,
in the moment, right? He
Not
just
that I saw.
said, hey, cuff me up.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, and that's what's unfortunate about it. And the other thing to look into, right? We always talk about mental health usually, is like, I'm curious to know, like, what's his history like? Does he have mental health issues, anger issues, or something like that would cause him to like act out this way? Like, what's his history like? Does he have PTSD? Like, something along those lines. I don't know. As far as the defense, I mean, it's going to be like the easiest like paycheck you'll get as a public defender, because you got nothing to defend. You're just there to represent the guy. So
Yeah. This reminds me of a case where whenever I was, I worked in an office, and they would just have you like sit in different seminars and stuff, or just like, had continuing education where they show you a slideshow or a cheesy video about security and things like that. Well, I heard this story where a guy got laid off at his company and was obviously in financial distress at that news. And then the next day he shows up to work, and then he walks into his boss's office and then just shoots him, point blank. Like,
Sure.
This just seems to me like a move out of, like, he has nothing to lose in a way. So,
Right.
like, something must have been going on between these two where, like, I don't know, man. Like I said, I don't want to like allege anything, but this is something that I had seen someone speculate about, where like, maybe the judge did do something to like one of the cop's family members, and like the only way that he felt like he could
Yeah.
right the wrong is to just go and kill him, even if he spends the rest of his life in prison.
Have you ever seen the show The Judge?
No.
With Bryan Cranston?
No.
Highly recommend. I'll just give you like a brief synopsis. So basically, he's a judge in Louisiana. His son gets into a accident, ends up killing someone, and runs away. Like, doesn't report it, runs away. Finds out that the dude he killed is one of the main mob's boss's kids. So there's like a lot of corruption that comes up from that and stuff, and highly recommend to you and the listeners. So something to watch for. But,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess we'll see.
Cool. All right.
The next big news that's going on right now is P Diddy is under a lot of heat, and he finally did get arrested after seems like about a year or so of investigation. 6 months or a year ago, we had heard about his homes being raided, and they found different pieces of evidence and like electronic evidence of what they said was a human sex trafficking case. Didn't really hear much about it. He wasn't arrested at that time, and then now he does get arrested, and more information is coming to light. This is still sort of newer news, and is probably going to drag out for a while before this sees any sort of resolution. But it seems like he was involved in a lot of like sex parties and things like that he would host, which resulted in him obtaining film of people doing embarrassing things that he ordered them to do, all under coercion. And then he used those tapes as like blackmail leverage. And these would also involve him flying in prostitutes in order to take part as well, which is where the sex trafficking comes in. But there's also accusations of him forcing people to use drugs, so the forced coercion, as well as literally keeping them for multiple days on end, doing what he called freak-offs that all centers around the freak-offs that he liked to host. And then now people are starting to come forward. So there actually was, in the last few years, a couple lawsuits against him, one from his ex-girlfriend, where there was actually footage of them in a hotel and he was like abusing her, and he came out and did like a TikTok apology or whatever, where apparently she was trying to escape one of these freak-offs and he was beating her for it. And then I think his ex-manager, somebody that worked for him, also filed a lawsuit, I think shortly after, around that same time, and it was sort of pertaining to these same things. So they had already come forward, and they have seized over 90 cell phones, all sorts of laptops. When you got people doing this type of thing, you know that there's video evidence out there that's going to come to light. So my opinion on this right now is I don't think there's any way that he's going to be getting off the hook on this one.
No.
They could have arrested him way back when they did the raids on his home and they found all this evidence.
Yep.
But it really seems like they took their time to build their case. The people prosecuting him is the Southern District of New York, and I guess they have like a 95% rate of whatever you call, basically success rate, being able to pin things on people and get them in prison. So it seems like they choose their battles wisely, and if you're up against them, then the odds are not looking good historically. And so I think they really did their homework here, and they've uncovered a lot of things. I think the next big step is that we're going to see people snitching to protect themselves. They're going to offer immunity to all sorts of people, and there's got to be countless people right now that are involved in this.
Epstein 2.0, bro.
Yeah, the same sort of thing.
He's gonna go in a non-suicidal jail cell.
Yeah.
And somehow he's gonna hang himself or something.
Yeah, this seems to be more about like the music industry, obviously, it being P Diddy, where Epstein was very it seemed like everybody, political.
Yeah.
But you never know, man. Those two worlds got to collide.
100%. 100%.
When you're influential, whether it's in the music industry and entertainment or politics, there's got to be intermingling there. So, if he has done this with hundreds of people, what are the chances that that he wasn't dabbling in the politics side of things? And if you're in that business, in any industry that you're in, you tend to network with people that are in the same industry. If you're in the sextortion industry, then he's probably had a couple days with Epstein where they intermingled. So it's got to be intertwined with that.
Yeah, and there's got to be underage stuff. There's got to be some underage stuff in there too.
Well, what was interesting is that was notably left out. I think that back whenever there was these allegations and lawsuits with him in the past, people would have thought that when it all comes to light that is going to be a part of it. Yeah. But they actually don't have anything in the indictment or whatever it's called about any minors. So my guess would be that there was some of that.
Yes.
But isn't it right that if they're going to be trying to stick charges on somebody, it's important not to overcharge?
Sure.
They want to make sure that what they're going to try to stick them with is 100% solid.
Yeah.
And maybe they left that out because there wasn't enough evidence.
That's very possible.
But yeah, as of right now, that's actually not on the table as far as the legal case goes.
He's facing, even we always talk about how rich people get off easy and stuff, but you're talking like years in prison. Years.
Yeah,
and
I think the rest of his life.
Yeah, even if you get out in, let's say, 20 years, your financial is gone. It's like the scene in the Tiger King where he's like, I'm never going to financially recover from this.
Yeah.
That is him right now. He is going to get sued to the Stone Age after this criminal stuff is done. He's going to have nothing left if he even makes it out before he dies,
Yeah, he'll spend all of his resources defending this. If you're facing life, might as well just throw it all at the case to try to keep yourself free for as long as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You mentioned like Epstein, and in the past 5 or so years, maybe longer now, we've seen so many cases of this type of thing happening in the world of the rich and famous. There was Epstein, but then you have the individual cases like Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein and Nickelodeon and all these things, right? Like there's so much of that in the acting and entertainment industry in general. A lot of people think, well, rich and famous people are just disgusting people and they're all perverts. But I mean, I really think that this just goes to show you how many people, like average people, must be like this that would love to have a freak off. They just don't have the resources to do it. Like if you walk into an office of 100 people, chances are Scott from accounting, he wants to have a freak off. He wants you to star in it.
Right.
But he just doesn't have the money to convince you to do it.
Right.
And once people get money, not all celebrities are like this, but if you give 100 random people, average people, millions of dollars, then, I mean, how many of them are going to be doing this type of behavior?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it makes me wonder, because I know, like, Epstein, he had, like a book or whatever that people signed, or, like, some weird, like, to show that people were there, and, I don't know all of the evidentiary. I do know about the phones and, like, computers or whatever else they took, but I'm curious to see, like, if there were any, like, handwritten things to, like, pin on other big names. Like you said, like, the rap community or hip-hop community. I mean, who knows, dude? Like, Jay-Z. Like, what about Beyonce? Like, I mean, honestly, think about some of the biggest names in music. I mean, probably not, but, like, Taylor Swift. Like, there could be people crapping bricks right now because they're like, bro, they're going to find me out. Like, my name, I was there, like, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, and, yeah, I was just an attendee, but, like, I was part of the issue. I was part of what was happening, and I'm sure a lot of the witnesses or people that were present probably will get a deal of, like, hey, if you basically crap on P. Diddy, like, we'll have immunity for you, but, like, you have to say everything that happened there or what you saw,
Isn't this kind of like a RICO case in a way, where, like...
The RICO Act?
Isn't that kind of how they're going about it, where they're basically saying that this is his, Sean Combs Enterprises, or Combs Enterprises, is like a criminal organization, essentially, and all these people were working towards the common goal of these sex crimes.
Yes.
And so, basically, like, if you are affiliated with that, I mean... you can be charged with the same thing, right?
Yeah, so you're very good. That's very impressive, yes. So the RICO Act was back in New York, which it's funny that this is where the prosecuting office is from. But in New York, when the mob was going on, they had issues because they kept taking out, like, the street guys, and it didn't mean anything because the big bosses were still going around doing what they wanted to do. Well, essentially... Giuliani passed the RICO Act, which says you're just as liable as the boss is, and we're going to go after everybody from top down. And that completely, essentially extinguished all the main mafia. And I'm sure there's still, like, little cells here and there, but, like, as far as what it used to be, not even close to what it was. So, yes, it's very much similar to that of, like, you're as culpable as P. Diddy was in that, and therefore we have you under our foot, and you're going to do what we want you to do. Otherwise, you're going to be as liable, right? So
yeah, I was thinking about the mafia, about this as well for a different reason, because what's funny about the mafia is that particular criminal organization is so, like, romanticized to the point where they do horrible things, and they're all terrible criminals. But you could have, like, there's, like, John Gotti or whatever, we know where he lives, right. We knew where he lived, right? Or people in those areas would know, like, oh yeah, this guy is like a mafia guy. They'd have a certain level of respect where people know what's going on. You got to think that everybody around P. Diddy and anyone that would attend his gatherings and stuff would know that this stuff is going on. I mean, is anybody surprised that this is happening? Was anybody hearing this news and like, what? No, like... P. Diddy?
Yeah. I think people on his level probably weren't surprised. Like, I could see, like, Shaq being like, oh, yeah. Shaquille O'Neal being like, oh, yeah, like, I kind of figured something was going to come out at some point. Like, that dude, like, stuck his finger up my butt at the party one time, and that was kind of weird, right? Like, just like,
Yeah.
I'm sure people, like, probably saw hints of things that were like, that's strange, but, like, for us in the normal community, like, we have no idea about that stuff. Like,
yeah, I mean, I couldn't have told you exactly what he was up to. But when it comes to, like, rappers and people in the music industry, like, on that side of things, I mean, with how much they talk about doing this type of thing in the music, I mean, I'm not really surprised. Because what he was doing really was, I mean, he was holding people's housing over their heads. I mean, he was hiring prostitutes, and he was really using a lot of financial leverage and, using people's addiction to different drugs in order to get them to do what he wanted. Mm-hmm. This is pimping behavior.
Yeah.
And for how much that is romanticized in, like, the rap genre, like, I'm not surprised that this type of thing was going on at that level.
I wonder what's the main driving force behind that? Like, same thing with Epstein. Like, and some of it is, like, you're just sick in the head, like, you're not a normal person. But bro, you're making hundreds of millions. I'm starting to sound like Trump. You're making millions of dollars a year. Like, your money is making money for you. You don't have to do anything. You can sleep all day and you're up 50 million that day. I don't understand where, like, the driving force is of, like, holding certain things over people. Like, that's just a power trip. Like, that's a pride and, like, power trip issue, I think.
It was a dick move. I mean, even people at that level.
Yeah.
Like, you got to think, if you go to one of the parties or people say, like, hey, stay away from P Diddy. Like, there's probably whispers of this type of thing happening. And so people were probably somewhat aware. But again, I mean, if you give 100 random people millions of dollars, average people are just as fucked up in the head as P Diddy. Like, 10 of those people probably would love to have freak-offs. Within a year, they're hosting freak-offs, right? And so he just happened to be one of those people that was into that type of thing. And he also happened to get rich. So he's going to use that money to do what satisfies him. And I think, like, people always say that the rap industry just has a bad view on women, and the way they talk about women isn't very good in that genre of music, and it's very misogynist. And I wonder, like, if you have that much money and there's so many women that are going after you that, like, are trying to have you impregnate them on a daily basis, like, that's got to be happening. If you're worth millions and millions of dollars, billions of dollars, women are throwing themselves at you because if you happen to get them pregnant, that is like a free ride. Like, they just won the lottery.
Correct. And
a lot of women, they wouldn't go for that, because they're not shallow or whatever. But a lot of women, they would love to get impregnated by a famous person so that way they can get those checks every month. They can get a piece of that money. I mean, that would be a really easy way to live and make a living compared to the other options that they might have. So if every woman that is coming at you is trying to trap you like that and use that as, like, leverage over you, at some point, like, how long does it take until you say, okay, well, hey, if they want to do this stuff with me, then we're going to do it my way. Like, get ready for the freak off. Like,
yeah, like, bro, like, you're signing a waiver and it's about to get real. You know what I mean? Like,
and at least, like, he's going to do what he wants, and I'm sure he was into some crazy stuff. Yeah. And all these women are throwing themselves at him. It's like, okay, well, you're going to do, what I like. And it seems like most of the time, he wasn't even participating in these freak-offs, really. Like, he would say, okay, this girl, come to my hotel room, and then I'm going to hire this male prostitute. Yep. You guys are going to have sex, and I'm going to watch. So, like, it was something where he wasn't even participating in it, but he was just having women do these things. Probably was promising career promotions and, like, promising to get them on the label and things like that, which is obviously all bad, but he probably just didn't have a whole lot of respect for women and other people that are always after him. And he probably sees that women are trying to use him, and so he's just like, well, I'm going to use them instead. And that was how he went about it.
I mean, who do you think was hanging out with him? Like, who do you think would be the big names that would get in trouble here?
I think that if you are in Hollywood or you're in the entertainment industry, you go to parties and after maybe midnight, someone comes up to you and says, hey, like, if you don't want to be a part of what comes next, then, now's time to leave.
It's time to dip. Yeah.
And so I think that anybody could have fallen into that from all levels.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think he's screwed for sure. If they're doing their job and they're doing it right, which it sounds like they are, like you said, he's got no chance. They might try to work with him a little bit. Like, I mean, you could even probably take this international, possibly, if you wanted to. Like, he could be with like a Chinese organization that's shipping prostitutes over here or something. Like, it could get that big. So they might even give him, I mean, he'll still do prison time, but like they might give him a deal that is much more favorable if they're like, do you have something here? Or like talk to the defense attorney. Is there anything as far as internationally, or like how is he getting these? Can we work with him? That kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
Because I mean, at this point, dude, like if you're facing 50 plus years, I mean, I don't know. You might want to say something, because I mean that stuff is very common. The international stuff, prostitution rings and stuff like that. I mean, it's happening even in the St. Paul, Minneapolis area. So
he's fighting for bail. So if he's facing 50 years, like you said,
I don't know the
so
exact.
I think it might be. I heard 51, and the number 51. I don't know if it is because he is 51,
Okay.
or if that's how many years he was facing.
Yeah.
I don't recall the context of that, but I think it is the rest of his life. Essentially, he'd be in jail. Okay, so if you're facing the rest of your life in jail, and you're P Diddy, I mean, you got to think that you'd do anything to avoid that, whether it's spend all of your money or run away. They're trying to fight for him to get bail, and I don't think that's been decided yet. And they're trying to say that he's not a flight risk, but like,
Are you kidding me?
It would not be
Bro.
worth it for them to give him bail.
No.
He has a private jet.
You're never finding him again, dude.
No.
Like,
if I was him, even though they're probably checking like international flights, like I would just get on my plane and I'll book a flight to like, any state in the United States, and then I'll just tell the pilot like, hey, like, don't stop. Just keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
What is the farthest that our gas tank can get us right now?
Correct, yeah.
And just go. And then it'd be like an international search. You probably would still get caught eventually.
Yeah.
But at that point, like, wouldn't you do anything to just get away? Like, I don't know how people can just stoically face.
Yeah.
Because they said in the statement, I'm not his attorney said he's not afraid of the charges. Like, you're not afraid. Like, anyone's going to be afraid of that. Like, even if you know you're innocent, if someone came to me and accused me of murder and now I'm being investigated for murder, even if I know 100% that I am innocent, even if I know that I have a really good alibi and all the evidence supports my claim, I would still be afraid that this accusation is even coming anywhere near me.
Absolutely.
How can you say you're not afraid of the charges?
Dude, I wonder, it would be even more ideal for him if he had his own pilot license, because then you can just be like, I'm taking this sucker and I'm going like, and who knows, maybe he will commit suicide. Like, he could do the John Denver thing and fly his plane into the frickin' mountainside. You know what I mean?
I guess.
I mean, I hate to say it, Kobe, right? Like, I mean, straight up, like, get a helicopter, see ya, you know? So, I mean, hey, maybe Kobe's name's on there.
Yeah,
I don't
it
mean
literally
to
could
crap
be
on
anybody.
Kobe, but I'm just saying,
But do you think there's any world where they release the whole list of everyone that's been involved with
Probably
this? Because
not.
they didn't with Epstein, right? That was like supposed to be the big thing.
Yeah.
They're like, they're going to come out with these names. Did the
And then he
names
died.
ever get released?
No, because he was going to release it. He was going to say all the big names.
Okay, there
And-
wasn't like
and
an
then he
actual
died.
like list. Oh, okay. I thought that there was like a piece of evidence that they had.
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, like, that's kind of sketchy, right? Like,
Well, he better hope that I don't know if he should hope for this. Well, he better hope that he has enough leverage on someone that can throw him a lifeline here.
yeah.
So one of the main ways that he got people to come up to his hotel room and participate in this shit, aside from just literally like violence, was he would have people go and approach women and let them know that P Diddy is interested in pursuing a relationship with them.
Yes.
And then they would go to the hotel room and then it would be a freak off. How dumb do you got to be to just be at a party and think that P Diddy wants to have a relationship, wants me to be his girlfriend?
Well,
Like-
here's the thing. If you're at the party with P. Diddy, or like P. Diddy's in the area, you got to be somewhat higher up, right? Or like in society, or like you're there for a reason, right? Like, you're not going to find me in a frickin' building with P Diddy in it unless it's a
Right.
concert. You know what I mean? So like, it makes me wonder. Like, I mean, we deal with that stuff all the time. Like the scams, right? Like, oh, this Hollywood actor contacted me and they said like they just send them $1,000 and then we'll move in together and stuff. It's like, bro. Like, so if people like that can fall for it, I can see others falling for it, you know?
And, you're right that you or I would never be at these parties.
Correct.
But I think a lot of people that participate in these parties are just like Instagram hoes,
Yes.
that are successful at that. But I mean, they're not music artists. They're just like hot girls. And that's literally
Correct.
their career. Just these types of people at that level. I mean, there is an industry of being a woman that's attractive and people
Yes.
will pay you to go to their parties and go to their yachts and just be a hot girl around. So that way
Yes.
you're in the background of the pictures
Yep.
and things like that. That is a real thing. And so a lot of these women
OnlyFans.
probably, I mean, this is like a job opportunity for them in a way.
Yeah.
But it's like, don't women have friends that like look out for them? Like if you were at a party and I come up to you, I'm like, oh, hey, like this guy wants me to come back to his hotel room and we're just gonna like hang out. You'd be like, don't go. Like, are you you crazy?
I'm like,
Like you're not going to that guy's hotel. You're gonna get fucked.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah.
Like,
And-
is there an ice tub full of fucking ice? Or a bathtub full of ice, Like, I'd be concerned, bro. I'd be like, bro, you're going to walk in, get shanked, and wake up with your kidney gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
But like women, they must go to these parties as a group, and like they're not looking out for each other. Like if
Yeah.
one of these women's like, "Oh yeah, P Diddy wants to be my boyfriend," they'd be like, "Are you dumb? Like no, like what? Like no,
Yeah.
he doesn't.
No, yeah.
That's not why he wants to hang out with you."
no.
And so I don't know. I mean, there's a whole thing about victim blaming or whatever, but I just think that for that particular way of luring women in, just seems a little bit naive, if you ask me.
But, I mean, if it's worked before, why wouldn't he just keep doing it, right? Like you said, like maybe some of these women want to get pregnant. So they're like, yeah, I'll go,
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be a lot of it. I mean,
Yeah.
I think he's just taking advantage of the fact that women are going to be really aggressive and trying to get with him.
Yeah.
But the fact, I mean, if you're going there because you think you're going to go and have sex with P. Diddy and it's not going to be a relationship, well, I guess that makes a little bit more sense. And then you get more than you bargained for with
Yeah.
the freak off. Well, yeah, sure, that makes sense. But I mean, to think that he wants to be your boyfriend or wants to be
Yeah.
in a relationship is stupid.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. Yep, for sure.
P. Diddy's ready to settle down, and he chose me.
Yeah, no. Some girl from Orange County
Right.
who's thinks she's all special and no one cares about her, so it's sad. I wonder, I bet you Justin Bieber's in that.
Yeah, so I
Straight
actually
up,
heard
dude.
about that before all this. Is like people would suspect that he was doing some weird stuff to Justin Bieber, and Justin Bieber has all of like those trademarks of guy who got abused in the industry,
Yes.
right?
Like he was raped by several men.
Yeah, like you got
Like, that's just the vibe I get. Like,
yeah.
I'm sorry,
he went
but like,
just through all like just the way he looks now and how he's changed throughout the
Yeah,
years, like
yeah.
physically. Who was the girl from Nickelodeon? It was Amanda Bynes. You know who that is?
Oh, she got screwed up. Dude.
And I thought that in that Nickelodeon documentary they'd bring her up, but I guess she probably just didn't want to talk or whatever.
Yeah.
But like she's a prime example of someone that everyone talked about how crazy she was and she just went insane. But like everyone knows now, she probably was severely abused
Absolutely.
working for that corporation. Britney Spears, the same
Yep.
way, right?
Yep.
Justin Bieber has got to be in that same field, right, where
Yep.
he was abused. And so I wonder if he'll come forward or not. But yeah, man, I mean, with all of these examples of this abuse taking place, why would somebody ever let their kids get into acting or singing as like a potential career?
I know. It's tough. It's tough because like it's just, and hey, I'm just saying, a lot of these big stars are Democratic. Okay, like I'm just saying, putting that out there. All right, no, yeah. I mean, as a kid, yeah. I mean, that's something to think about, and you always think about like, oh, my kid won't be that way, or they won't get involved. Yes, they will, because there are channels that hold the big keys to all the money that you want, and you might start out. I kind of think of it like almost like a family tree. You'll start out way at the bottom. There's a ton of branches down here. and then you'll work your way up, and there's only like 4 branches at the top. Well, all of those 4 are sex offenders, and you're going to have to get through one of them if you want this money. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter. Like, yeah, you may make it through your first 3 to 5 years, but then eventually when you keep moving up, at some point you're going to reach your moment of, okay, this is it. Like, am I going to do this or not? You know?
Yeah,
so.
And I think it's a little bit of a different dynamic when it's an adult trying to make it.
Yes.
But like when it's your child, even if you try to protect them during that situation with Drake, from Drake and Josh. I mean, his dad gave his full account, and obviously so did Drake. And his dad was there on the set like the whole time that he was working.
Yes.
And still they got to him because they, manipulated the dad as well. Well, no, the dad was kind of onto it, but then when the mom was the one that started going, she wasn't very wary of it, right? And that's when they got him. But like, there's nothing you can do about it as a parent. Like, even if you are there, they're still going to be around your kid and planting their seeds. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it seems inevitable. I mean, the people that hold that power, like, that's probably why they're doing it in the first place. I mean, the people that get that far, I mean, they're going to abuse their power.
Yep.
If you're in an industry where you're working with, like, I want to be at the top, working with the most attractive people, like, you're going to maneuver your way where you're the one that gets to decide who gets to be in the movies. And, like, those types of people are way more likely to be creeps than the ones that are a little bit lower down the ladder. You don't hear about lighting technicians, that are doing this type of thing. It's always the people at the top. Like, it's almost inevitable that your kid's going to go through this.
Correct.
And maybe back when Justin Bieber was getting into it, we didn't really know. It was something where it was a little bit more behind closed doors. But at this point, everybody should know.
Yes.
And where do you stop it? Like, if your kid wants to be an actor in the school play, well, okay, fine. But, like, I wonder if it'd be hard to bring up, like, if you knew that your child had a really had a passion for singing and really wanted to make it, it would be hard to navigate that as a parent.
Sure.
Like, do you just say, no, you can't do it? Like, do you tell them the truth?
Sure. So let me ask you this. What's the difference between that and the TikTok cult?
Like, I guess, how do you mean? Like, what is the difference between them wanting to sing and wanting to be on TikTok?
Yeah, like if these parents, because remember, we kind of both agreed that the parents were almost in the wrong there. But at what point? Because obviously Robert, the priest guy or whatever, pastor, was a creep and probably doing sexual things to these people or some of the girls. What's the difference between that and some of these groups in Hollywood, right? It's kind of the same thing, isn't it? Because he promised them fame and all this other stuff, Yeah,
trying to think back to that, there wasn't any evidence that their daughter was getting sexually abused. No
evidence, yes. Yeah.
And like there's no claims. Well,
correct.
I don't even think they made claims of that really, but like, if that was happening, then obviously that would be bad. He'd done that in the past to some women.
Yes.
Maybe that was happening to her, but I don't think that was their primary reason that was stated. Like, they weren't saying, oh, we're pretty sure she's being sexually coerced. Yeah. They were just saying that, she's not talking to us anymore and we don't like when she reads scripture on TikTok, right? So I just felt like their motivation wasn't in the right place there. But, yeah, I guess if just the cult aside, I mean, having them dance on TikTok in a way also would be bad because there's tons of creeps and stuff on TikTok too. I mean, the app is filled with kids dancing and things like that. I mean, if you're a pedophile, I mean, TikTok's got to be a goldmine.
Without a doubt.
But I will say that if you're not joining a management company on TikTok, that is more independent and you're not having to deal with other people. Like, you don't require other people to lift you up in the TikTok industry the same way that you need other people to lift you up in the acting industry. I mean, you cannot make it as an actor without somebody letting you through the doors. Yeah. Whereas TikTok, you can kind of be your own boss, I guess. But I wouldn't be comfortable with my young child dancing and being prominent on the internet either. Yeah. Because there is a creepy factor to that, too.
For sure.
Like, people that let their 9-year-olds make content on TikTok all the time, and it's weird.
I just feel like it's all politically driven. Like, even, and I'm not talking Republican, Democrat, I'm saying like political reasons for yourself. Like, there's some type of power there or something at all times. We'll even go off the topic a little bit of the video I watched that you sent me. Like, this dude is going into being a police chief. He's in the middle of a frickin' criminal investigation, and these people are like, what is going on here? And the main counsel guy is like, no comment. When they asked him what makes him fit for this position or whatever, like, it's the same thing. There's got to be something behind, like, closed doors there to, like, help him out or something, right? Like, he's the gatekeeper to help him get into this spot. Same thing, dude. Like,
yeah, I mean, when you have someone that's being put into a position of leadership that doesn't really have the respect of the people, or they are clearly, being investigated as a criminal,
yes.
but they're still being pushed there. Well, yeah, there's obviously ulterior motives.
Yes.
And it could be political, whereas, they want to be seen as like what they call like a DEI hire, right? That's one way of having ulterior motive.
Yep.
But the other way is that, you can exchange favors. In the Hollywood entertainment industry, you could, put someone on this movie, and in return, something else happens. I mean, there's a lot of like scheming and politics involved in that.
Yep.
And that's what the whole system is built on. But then you have all the people that, witness it, and they just like have to participate in that industry, but they don't say anything until something comes out. And so you just know that it's this open secret. And they're attending those parties where it turns into a freak off, and then they still decide to move forward.
This freak off thing is freaking me out. Like,
so
what does that, like, what do you think that means?
Well,
like, we talking sex swings and stuff, and like,
well, I'm sure it's stuff that we wouldn't even fucking think of. But
oh my God.
If we were, so the freak off is he would decide, okay, we're having a freak off on Friday, right? And he would find whatever girls he wants to participate, and then he would find whatever guys he wants to participate, and a lot of times they would be male prostitutes, and he would get them to basically do whatever sex acts. He would be the director. So he just tells them what he wants them to do, and they would have to do it. And if they didn't want to, then he would either give them drugs so that way they're more compliant, or he would, physically beat them or whatever until they did it. And sometimes it would go on literally for multiple days on end. And when it was over, he would give them IV fluids to recover from the physical exhaustion and the drugs. Like, that's how intense it got. So I think it probably goes past the sex swings and butt stuff. I think it's probably some stuff that we wouldn't even think of if we were given a $2,000 gift card to the sex store.
He's probably like the largest spreader of like freaking hepatitis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you just have, because unless he did screenings like porn does or something, where he screened these people before it happened, like.
Yeah, probably not.
But probably not. You know what I mean?
You saw that there was over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and stuff in there.
Oh my, bro, they're probably fucking animals too.
I'm sure nothing was off limits, bro. At the
straight up, dude. Like, you go to a farm or something, he's probably in a barn, dude. There's like fucking goats and shit. Like fainting goats. You ever seen them? Probably fainting and shit. They see all these fucking animals getting fucked by these people, dude. What the hell, man? That's depressing, dude. What is people's problem, But anyway.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you need to add on that topic?
Well, I guess we talked about, like, as a parent, putting your kids in that industry, but it's a little bit different when it's like a adult that's participating in it. You go to the party, and then, they say, hey, if you don't want to be a part of what's coming next, then leave now. Well, you stay and you see what's going on. And even if you don't like it, you don't want to be a part of it, a lot of those people will just keep going because that's how much they want to be a part of that industry.
Yeah.
Like, at what point is it your responsibility to say, like, this is wrong? If this is what it takes to make it in this industry, I don't want any part of it. Like,
yeah.
Once you're in the room and you're trapped in that room and there's nothing that you can do to get out of it, and you kind of feel trapped and you have to participate in the freak off, and you're now it's more than what you bargained for, that's one thing. But you got to think that it wasn't just always behind closed doors of a hotel room. Like, there's got to be times when you walk into mass orgies. Like, God, I'm so fucking bad with names. Oh, Leonardo DiCaprio. didn't he get found out to be like hosting like orgies and shit like that? Like I'm pretty sure this is extremely common in Hollywood at that level.
The thing is, dude, there's sin everywhere, bro. Like it's not even.
It's just debauchery.
But here's the thing, like, so P Diddy's is way different, but like the orgies thing, I feel like you can get away with because, like, for example, like if 6 people want to have sex in the same room at the same time. There's not a law against that. Like, you're allowed to do that. You know what I mean?
It's not illegal to be a freak.
Correct.
The freak-off's not illegal.
The problem is like, when you're like, hey, I'll give you this if you go do this. Like, when you're starting to, like, put money in paying people for sex acts, that's where it becomes a problem.
But
like,
the lines got to blur pretty quick once you start getting up to that level.
Sure.
Because, like, you know, you just being around that, I mean, in a way, it's like you are... You're there because it's got to make you uncomfortable at first. Yes. I mean, it's something that you probably got to get used to. But like, there's a point where you go to your first party and this stuff starts happening and you're a little bit taken aback by it, but you decide to press forward. Mm-hmm. The reason that you're doing the stuff that you are initially uncomfortable with is so that way you can make it in the industry. Like, you don't want to be the guy that doesn't want to participate in the freak off. Right? Because people aren't going to want to hang out with you anymore. So you stay there and you kind of like play the part because you want to be in that circle. So there already is like some unspoken coercion there. There's already an exchange happening there. And then it only becomes more direct once they actually start like, you know, offering you money and threatening you and things. But I think the first step is willingly participating in it. Yes. Before you get directly coerced. It's almost like you're raising your hand saying like, hey, like, I'm someone that you can take advantage of because I'm still here, you know? Yeah. And it may be true that if you don't step into that and dip your toe into that world, then you aren't going to make it in your career. But people, they're like, well, that I want to make it, and these people can make it happen. So hey, I'm going to participate in this orgy. Maybe I'll stand off on the side. But then, you know, it only gets worse from there. You'll be a coach on the side, you know? Yeah. But yeah, I guess that's all I really have to say about that one. We'll see. I think a lot of interesting stuff's going to come from that once we start seeing who speaks up. Yeah.
All right, so our next story that we wanted to talk about was Cocomelon. Now, when you had reached out to me about this story, I had no idea what Cocomelon was, which kind of makes sense because I don't have a kid yet, right? Yeah. Got one on the way, don't have one born yet. But I looked into this, and it was from V2 or whatever, this guy that creates this documentary from, that this video was about. Basically, from what I gathered from this video, is that it's a TV show for very young kids. I would guess from the ages of 0 to like 4 or 5-ish.
Yeah, like
maybe
babies,
6.
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. And it was saying that basically these producers of this show are purposely taking advantage of the way kids think based on several factors. One is like the lighting or the color, right? Like the color's super vibrant, which is almost the exact same colors that they use at casinos to get people to like gamble on slots and stuff like that.
There's triggers a certain thing in our head.
There's sounds kind of similar to slots. There's the rapid screen different like shots that it says. Like there was one on there where the guy's counting and he's like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1. Like it kept like
no
going
shot
to different
stays for more than 3 seconds to constantly keep them stimulated.
Yep, and correct. Yep, and then they went as far as to like half play their show on one side of the screen or something, and then half have like some type of distraction on the other side, and see like what got the kids to watch their show the most without other distractions. And it's kind of to the point from what I gathered where somebody could literally burn their house down and the kid would burn alive in the house watching this show. Like they would be so into this show that they wouldn't even feel themselves burning alive. Like I feel like.
Yeah. You know? And so a lot of this video in particular and a lot of like what you'll read online if you Google Cocomelon, which is a show that every parent of a kid is aware of because when you log into Netflix, they just shove it in your face. It's like pretty much the number one show that's pushed onto your kids, and it looks fine. I mean, it's hard to tell what's good and bad for your kid, but it's marketed towards your kids, and it's so common that it's easy to put it on for your kid.
Sure.
And it seems very innocuous until you start reading certain things about it. But a lot of what you'll find is anecdotal stories, okay? It's kind of hard to make a solid conclusion based off of what people are saying in comments. I mean, I don't even really trust people's reviews of restaurants.
Right.
When I see them on Yelp. If they give a 2-star review, it's like, okay, well, it's one of those things where you only speak out about it if you had a bad experience.
Yep.
So is that really the general experience of the public that's eating at this restaurant or watching Cocomelon, right? But a lot of what is said in these anecdotal reviews is that it caused a lot of issues with their kids, where it is so stimulating that their kids are just purely addicted to it. I mean,
Yes.
When you were saying about their house could be burning down, there's a video called like Cocomelon turned my kid into a zombie, and you can wave your hand in front of the kid's face while they're watching Cocomelon. They won't even notice that you're there. I mean, they're just like glued to that screen. When you turn it off, they have tantrums. They'll have tantrums in the middle of church or whatever until you put on Cocomelon, then they're fine. There's just so many stories. Oh, that and like speech delays too. So there's countless stories of this show has caused my kid to not be able to speak on time. My kid's 3 or 4 years old. She can't speak in complete sentences. But then when we took Cocomelon away, well, then now within 3 days, she's able to talk. It seems like it might be educational when you watch it, because the entire show essentially is like, there's actually 2 versions of it. So one is more of like a regular show where there's some sort of story to it, but the other one is literally just songs. And if you go on YouTube, it's just the songs, right? And the songs, there's kind of like 2 or 3 different melodies that they use. Like one is like the Wheels on the Bus melody, but it's just different lyrics every time.
Yeah.
It's very repetitive, and they have the lyrics on the screen. So you think, okay, well, my kid's watching the lyrics, and they might be learning how to speak. But the lyrics go by so fast, they're not really able to like read it. And it's in like a font where it's not super easy for them to read. And when you look into how it's made, what you were talking about with the where they're testing to see how kids are engaged with it. At the studio of Cocomelon, they call it the Distractatron. So once a month, they bring the kids in one by one, and they'll put the kids there and have them watch Cocomelon, and they'll have someone getting their head shaved.
Getting murdered.
No. It'll just be like,
I know.
it'll be like just something mundane, just like
Yep.
filling up a cup of orange juice or getting a haircut, and they'll make note of any time the kid looks away. And they'll write it down. So that's not engaging enough. And there's a TikTok trend where people will play the Cocomelon theme song and videotape their kid running in as soon as they hear it, because they're so obsessed with it. Mm-hmm. And so it really just grabs your kid's attention. So I am a new parent, and so I did have experience with this. This is like Chrissy wanted to put on some show for our new baby. You know, she was maybe 2 months old. Not because we wanted to give our baby something to do, really, but she just thought it'd be cute to have our baby watch a baby show, right? Sort of like when we took our baby, when she was first born, to a zoo. It wasn't because she was interested in the zoo. She was sleeping the whole fucking time. Chrissy wanted to go to the zoo with her baby, right?
Right. It's the picture of it.
Yeah. So we put on this Cocomelon, and it seemed fine. I felt weird about like having a baby watch TV and stuff.
Sure.
But then we looked into it and realized that it's really not good for her, and we turned it off. But what's interesting is like how easy it is to put the show on. I had never heard of Cocomelon, but that is what is shown to you and pushed onto you. And without looking into it, there's no way of knowing that this is bad and it's going to harm your kids. And it's just amazing how many things out there are marketed directly towards children that are absolutely harmful, whether it's entertainment or like the different food that's marketed to kids.
Oh, yeah.
How are you supposed to navigate that as a parent?
Yeah, so there is so this has been going on for decades, right? Like, I mean, everyone knows that kids drive a lot of money. Like, the parents are going to pay for what their kids want the majority of the time, right? And so I kind of feel like Cocomelon, from what I've read and what you've told me, it sounds like they're almost like the McDonald's of kids shows. And what I mean by that is they are 0.1% margin of error. Like, there is a reason why they're bringing these kids in to see how many times they look away from the TV, because 0.2% is not acceptable. They want 0.1% or less, right? So they're pinpointing it as much as possible to make it as addicting as possible for that. Now, like any great business, they will deflect it, which they did, right? They're like, essentially, it's like anything else. They're like, this is on the parents. The parents need to limit what their kids are watching or doing. It's not our fault that they're watching 8 hours a day or whatever they're saying, right? And there's some truth to that, because I remember even when we were growing up, like, there were several stories of McDonald's making people fat. And, making people fat.
Good thing that turned out not to be true.
Yeah, I mean,
no, just kidding.
Yeah, but like McDonald's was saying, look, it's not our fault that you as the parent are giving your kid 12 chicken nuggets and a large fry and a Coca-Cola.
Yeah, that is a
like
good point.
That's like, if you give us the money, we're going to give you the service. We don't care what you do with it.
Yeah,
You know
I guess
mean?
as
Like,
a business,
you know.
So yeah, that's a good point. So like, a lot of people are mad at Cocomelon for making the show that's harmful for their kids.
Yeah.
Because when they're choosing a show, they're like, well, I want a show that's going to like educate my kids.
Yes.
And they're assuming that that is the motivation of Cocomelon, is that Cocomelon should be looking out for my kids. When really they're a business that is
Correct.
trying to make money.
Yes.
Because they're a business. I mean, in capitalism, that's all a business is obligated to do.
Yes.
A soda company is not obligated to make their
Correct.
pop healthy. They just are there to satisfy a demand. And I think the demand here is that kids, they're making a show that is addictive. And so parents will put their kid in front of the screen
Yep.
for hours on end because it's addictive to their kid. And so
Yep.
it takes the kid off their hands for a while. And so that is what Cocomelon is producing. Now, they do try to make it sound like it is educational in the way that they like advertise and defend this thing. But at the end of the day, they are providing a show that the kids like.
Yes.
And you as a parent do need to set these boundaries. And so like in a lot of these anecdotal evidence, there was one where the lady that made the comment said that my kid's almost 4 years old and she isn't able to speak complete sentences yet. Like, she can say the words
Right.
that the show is saying and in that way speak sentences, but she's not able to like actually use it correctly. Like, she's just repeating, but she's not actually thinking of what she's saying in a way, right? And they're like, well, I hope it's not too late. Well, it's like, she's been watching Cocomelon for 3 years almost. Like, I can't believe that there's parents out there that'll see their kid have a tantrum at Cocomelon being turned off and not think, well, maybe that should be the last time that we put Cocomelon
Correct.
on.
Yeah.
They're like, every time I show Cocomelon, my kid has a tantrum. Like, there shouldn't even be a pattern of this. Like, you
Correct.
just take it away.
Yes.
It's crazy how parents, even if they recognize something is bad,
Right.
will not set boundaries with their kids. And you see it time and time again. As a new parent, I really try to withhold judgment of other parents until I am at that part
Sure.
of my kid's life.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when it comes to like playing video games and things like that, like I see the bad effect that toddlers or even 10 or 12-year-olds can have by this screen time and access to the internet. And I have opinions on it, but I try to hold myself back on these things because I don't have a 12-year-old yet. But when I see these people that have babies that are watching Cocomelon at my daughter's age, right around 1 years old, and they're having these terrible negative effects and are completely addicted, it just boggles my mind that parents don't try to address these problems.
Right.
And they're just waiting for Cocomelon to stop being addictive. They're like, man, I hope one of these days Cocomelon starts to change up their formula.
Why would they?
Right, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I get what you're saying, but like to the parents, like, bro, if I'm making billions of dollars, I'm not changing a damn thing.
No.
Like, they don't care about your kid. Like,
No, their
this
obligations
isn't Uncle
to the
Jim.
investors.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's wild, bro. Like, when I saw that, I'm like, yeah, I mean, they are the leading edge, the cutting edge of business with kids, and they're doing very well at it. Sesame Street, I guarantee you, was the same way in the early 2000s. Guarantee you. They were probably leading everything. All the kids want to watch Sesame Street. Well, now we have Cocomelon,
Yeah, and when you have a success in a certain industry, other people want to try to emulate that. So with how successful Cocomelon is, I mean, you got to just assume that more shows are going to try to follow that same formula because they want to make as much money as Cocomelon. So like you got to be careful. You know, I gave my so my daughter's eating food now, right? So we just feed her all sorts of shit. But one day I was giving her breakfast, and so I had a breakfast of scrambled eggs and some cheese and then some fruits and like veggies, right? And she enjoyed it just fine. Well, Christy had bought this yogurt for her. That's like a baby yogurt. It's yogurt directly marketed to babies. So she bought that one. She's like, oh, this is one that's good for babies. That's what it shows on the fucking label, right? Yeah. And then so I open one up, and it's like strawberry banana flavored or something. And I give her a couple spoonfuls. She was enjoying that way too much. I was like, why are you so into this? There's like this must be fucking delicious.
Yeah.
And I looked at it, and it said that there was like however many grams of sugar, but it was like 10% of their daily value in sugar. But it's 3 servings per container like this big. Any person is going to give their kid the whole container in a sitting, right? Yeah. It's like in a small, so it's a few spoonfuls, right? One serving would be like 2 spoonfuls of it. And no one's going to give them a third of the container. No. So there was a shitload of sugar in there. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not going to give my kid this. And I looked at the yogurt that we have that's just regular yogurt for adults, and it had less sugar in it and a higher, bigger serving than the baby one, right? So it was like way less sugar. The adult one was way healthier for people than the baby one is. And there's another example where like it's marketed directly toward babies, and you all feel like you should be able just to trust that marketing. You assume that someone is out there looking out for your kids. Yeah. You said like the Sesame Street, like back then, you could only get this entertainment on like a network television.
Yep. PBS. Yep.
So, yeah. And, you know, in PBS specifically, that is supported by public donors.
Yes,
right?
It is. Public foundation.
So you have like a say in a way. Like they want to make sure that they are giving educational content to your kids because, you know, they want people to support them. And so it was in check by this corporation. But now you can hand your kid a laptop or like an iPad or whatever and say, here is the internet. And even if you go to YouTube Kids, you assume, well, YouTube is looking out for my kid they have this whole section that is for kids. Yeah. And they so they're going to cater this content to kids. Do you remember ElsaGate?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so like ElsaGate was a thing like 5-10 years ago where there was videos that use these cartoon characters and it looked like it's for kids. Like it's literally cartoon characters. It's the Disney characters, the Spider-Man, right? Yeah. But then they was doing weird, you know, cartoon shit in the video, and then all of a sudden they would start having sex. Like Elsa would start having sex with Spider-Man. And it looks like a kid program, and so kids were their parents were letting their kids watch this. And it's all fucked up. Yeah. So like you need to cater, or you need to like to sort of choose what your kid is watching. Yeah. More than ever.
Yes. Agreed. Yep. I 100% agree with that. So.
But like, there's the people that didn't grow up with the internet. They're like, don't go on YouTube. Maybe they're 45 and they have kids, right? They're just not going to know about this stuff. No. And they're going to just let their kid, you know, watch whatever. Yep. My wife's nephews, they just have like unlimited access to iPads. And you can just tell that, I mean, that's all they talk about. And they just like, they talk in this weird way where they're always just making references to shit that they see online, right? Well, when he was like 7 or 8, he was over at our house and my wife walked out to the living room and he's like a 7 or 8-year-old and he's watching YouTube and he's looking up piss videos on YouTube. Yeah, he's like typing in like
people pissing.
So yeah, he's searching piss videos, like whatever that would pop up. I would assume that's what's gonna pop up. Yeah. But that's what he wanted to watch, and if he's unsupervised, I mean, if you left him there for an hour, how many piss videos can you watch in an hour? A lot.
You can watch a lot, yeah.
And that's what your kid could be out there watching. And some parents just like, and you don't have a kid yet. It's coming soon, but try to put yourself into the mindset of you have like a 4-year-old or something. You know, they're innocent, they're fun, you know, and then all of a sudden you see your son watching piss videos. Yeah. Like, that's like a violating feeling in a way to have your kid like the innocence broken like that.
Yes.
in a weird way. I guess I don't really know how to describe it if you don't have kids, but like,
Yeah, it's like you
it's
shouldn't
scary
be
what
watching
they have
that.
access to.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's scary that so many parents just don't have any
Yeah,
thought of like setting boundaries
yeah,
with their kids.
yep, for sure. Yeah,
There's another person that I know where their kids just play video games all the time, and they're just completely like zombies, just like that Cocomelon
Yep.
kid, right? And the kid was playing video games for so long in a row that he shit his pants.
What? For real?
Yeah, and that's just
that's
told
wild.
as like a funny story.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's horrifying that your kid is playing Call of Duty that long that they literally shit their pants and they're so engaged with it. Like I played a fuckload of video games in my life, dude. I have played so many video
Bro
games.
shit his pants and you're like, what?
But I mean, imagine how captivated somebody has to be. I have played so many video games that the top 2 video games that I have played, between those two, I've checked like the hours played in those games. It is over like 14,000 hours in my life, just out of two games that I played.
World of Warcraft. Don't forget
Yeah,
that.
World of Warcraft and Guild Wars 2 are the 2 that I've played most in my life since I was a kid. And if you look at how many hours I played on just those 2 games, it is basically 2 years worth of hours. Where like literally
Oh my
it's 2 hours. Like it'd be as if I sat down for 2 years and played a game without ever stopping, right? And not to mention all the other games I played in my life, that I don't
Yeah.
know how long I played them.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of hours. Not once have I ever shit my pants.
Maybe metaphorically you have, but
Yeah.
not like actual physically shit your pants.
Yeah, maybe it's like, oh, I haven't eaten in a while.
Right.
Maybe
Yeah.
I should get up and have a bite to eat.
Yeah.
But like, how encapsulated do you have to be with something to like, you would rather shit your pants than stop watching this video game or
Dude,
whatever.
I know you said like you like to wait to judge until it happens to you with the kid. There is not a chance my kid is going to get to that state. All right, like
You just know, right?
If it does, that thing's getting launched out the window. Like straight up, dude.
There was another comment about Cocomelon where the lady was having the same problems,
Yeah.
and she's like, my kid throws really bad tantrums every time that we turn Cocomelon off. How do I wean her off of it? Like, you don't have to wean her off. Just turn it off and don't turn it on.
Correct.
She's like, well, should I like put it on in the background, but not let her like have her eyes on it so that way she can get used to like not like wean her off it like it's fucking like a drug, which it is, but it's like she's not gonna go through withdrawals. If she
No.
goes, she might go through withdrawals, but like just turn it off. Like,
Yeah,
I
and
don't
it's quick too. Like kids, from what I know, like their attention span, you give it a day or two, they'll forget it. Like if you find another show,
Yeah.
they'll just like move on. you
yeah,
know?
people were saying like I turned off the Cocomelon and like I stopped letting them watch it, and it literally is like I have a different kid now. Like
Yeah.
they really are malleable like that.
Yeah.
Dude, I saw another horrifying video of this young kid who was like just like a baby/toddler, and they were sitting there and they had nothing in their hands.
Yeah.
But they were just sitting there, just like swiping the air,
Oh my.
because you know that their kid, the parents just gave that kid a iPad, and that's how they know. Like, oh,
That's the new dance move, dude. They're just.
they're just swiping the air, like that's what they're used to doing on TikTok or whatever, and that's their stimulation. So when they're
They're
stressed
just
out-
standing there like,
yeah, just
what's he
swiping
doing?
the
Oh, he's
air.
doing the tablet. That's what it's called, the tablet, the dance move. You know? Yeah, that's funny. I mean, for real though. Dude, I'm telling you, if my kid ever shit their pants from gaming so hard, done. Not happening. Bro, you're not shitting your pants. Like, you need to pay attention when you shit your damn pants. Dude, I was not expecting you to say that, dude. And that just blew me away, bro. That's wild. That's wild. That's for real? Like, someone told you that?
Yeah, that is someone that I know that happened to their kid. I mean, they're like another example of someone that just literally, I mean, their kids will just play video games constantly.
Yes.
And again, bro, like, I can't say like, don't let your kid play video games. But,
Right.
But it comes down to how they react to it.
Yes.
Like, I've played a lot of video games in my life, but like I'm not one of those people that was ever screaming at my TV or my computer. Like, I just play video games by myself, and I'm
Yeah.
respectful. I don't bother anybody. And I also was able to interact with people, like adults. I would talk
Yes.
to adults all the time.
Yeah.
But like, you can see if you ever interact with someone that's like between like 8 and 10 years old, and all they talk about is just like stuff about their video games. Like as a kid, I kind of tried to keep my video gaming like secret. I didn't want to go and talk to my aunt about fucking World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Like that'd be crazy.
Yeah.
But like kids will come up to you and they'll talk about like they'll talk to you about
Minecraft
some
and shit.
Fortnite shit.
Yeah.
And you're like, what are you talking about? Like I don't play Fortnite.
Yeah.
Like, and they just
what?
don't know. They don't know the boundaries. Like,
Right.
If kids always have slang that like their adults don't understand. That's the whole point of having slang, is so you can talk with your peers in a way that like other people don't understand, So parents will get bothered at their kids talking about skibbity toilet and shit like that. But and it's annoying and weird when you don't understand it. But that's like their dialect in a way. But kids gotta know when they're talking to adults how to like code switch in a way and like talk in a way they'll understand.
Yes.
And like if your kid doesn't know the difference, that's very concerning. And it just bothers me how many parents out there don't put any thought into their parenting.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It's wild, dude. It's wild. I don't really have anything else to say other than they shouldn't blame Cocomelon. That's my bottom line. Like, is Cocomelon part of the problem? Probably. But like at the end of the day, like, just fucking turn on SpongeBob or something. Like, I don't know.
So we have a agency that regulates what goes into consumer products, like the FDA, right? So like for food and drugs.
Yep.
There is people that figure out what is okay for us to have and what's not. Now, you can make a really good argument that they also don't have. You can't just trust them because they'll approve some shit that is completely illegal over in Europe because it's so unhealthy and there's corruption there and shit like that. Definitely. But we do have a body whose job is supposed to be to look out for us on that level. So we don't have to microscopically investigate everything that we fucking eat.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And one of those rules that they have is that they have to make the ingredients visible on every product that you buy. So you can at least have it be transparent. Like, what would you think of like a regulatory body that regulates the entertainment, even if it's just for kids, maybe not for adults, but like it has to pass through some sort of regulatory body before it can be marketed to children, both, food and like entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, there would have to be a lot of studies on that. So like food's a little easier, right? If your kid gains 50 pounds in a month, they probably shouldn't be eating tricks for kids, right?
Yeah.
But like I think with that stuff, it's a lot harder to like get the stats, get the, pay more money on that. So I think they probably like let a lot of the kid stuff slide. Because even nowadays, you can't tell me like, listen to SpongeBob, some of the stuff they say now that I hear.
Yeah.
I'm like, they said that? Like, when I was watching that, I didn't even know. And they're talking, like, some dark shit.
Yeah, and they would
You know what I mean?
constantly have, like, sexual innuendos and stuff in those old shows.
Yeah.
But I think that was partly in a way to make it entertaining for adults, too. So that way, like, adults could also watch it with their kids without being bored out of their mind.
Yeah.
You cannot watch Cocomelon as an adult and be interested in that shit. It's ridiculous. It's just boring. But, like, my dad loved to watch SpongeBob with us and, like, a lot of those Cartoon Network shows because they do kind of, like, do these dog whistles to adults that only adults will get, but the kids aren't going to get these jokes.
Yeah.
And maybe it's bad for kids to hear these things or, like, see some of the Courage the Cowardly Dog fucked up.
Oh, yeah, dude, I remember that show, bro. Looking back on that, I'm like, oh, my God. This is dark as hell,
like horror.
dude. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but I don't know, man. Like, as a parent, like, you can't constantly know if something's going to be bad. And I try to look in, just like with politics and stuff, and as adults, we get fed certain messages, and it is our responsibility, like, to look into things and see what's correct.
Yeah.
But, like, maybe you should be able to put some trust into, like, Netflix and things who are, like, pushing things to your kids. I mean, as much as it is your responsibility ultimately as a parent to regulate these things and, like, be the gatekeeper, if something is, you have Netflix kids or like YouTube kids, I mean, you should be able to say, okay, well, things on here are reasonably going to be good for my kid. I just need to regulate how much time they spend on the screen maybe. But like, it's exhausting, especially like when part of your job now as a parent is you need to introduce your kid to the tool that is the internet. Like, you
Yep.
can withhold it as long as you want.
Yep.
Like, if you ever knew a kid growing up that, like, their parents never let them have sweets or never let them play video games or
Yep.
anything like that, well, it's harder for them to be introduced to that stuff as a 16-year-old when they never had access to any of that shit.
Yep.
They don't know how to navigate it. So, like, you need to introduce your kid to that. You have to give them a cell phone at some point.
Sure.
You have to give them social media at some point. Otherwise, they're going to be 18 and have no experience, and then they're
Right.
going to end up
Yep.
with an OnlyFans or some shit like that. You got to
Yep.
like help
It's
guide
true.
them through
Yeah.
that. But it's so difficult. And some parents just say, well, here's an iPad at 3 years old. Here's the internet. Good luck.
Yeah.
And then it gets fucked up. But, like, how do you, like, help them do that
Yeah.
in a guided manner?
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Yeah, I have no idea, man. I like I said, I'll know when I get there with my kid, but I'm not there yet. So
If your kid is looking up piss videos at my house,
there's
that's
other
it, dude.
problems that need to be talked about then, because I'm so nervous about that now, dude. I am. Hold on, I gotta blow my nose, dude. I'm getting destroyed here. So, yes, if go back into it. If my kid is looking up piss videos at your house, there needs to be a serious discussion on. I'm looking into that dude's history, search history, everything, okay? I better not find rabbit porn or some other bullshit on there. Dude, that's what makes me so nervous is, like, I'm just afraid that, like, it's so easy to go down rabbit holes nowadays. Like, you click on, you just go on YouTube, you click on the first video. Click on recommended. Next thing you know, you're on, I started watching Cocomelon, I'm on Star Wars.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, holy shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'll spend a whole day watching, like, I'll watch one, like, body cam footage, like, please body cam
Yep.
footage. I will spend a whole day watching please body cam footage.
Yeah.
Because it just keeps feeding you what you want to
just
see.
keeps giving you. Yeah.
That's what, like, TikTok's all about now is,
Yeah.
you know, what's interesting is, like, the Cocomelon thing is kind of the same formula
Yeah.
that TikTok uses, where, like, we get stimulation every time that we swipe to the next video.
Yeah.
And, like, you couldn't tell the person next to you what are the last 5 videos that you watched, because, like, you forget about it as soon as you swipe.
Yeah.
So it is kind of the same thing. So they're using the same techniques on us.
Yeah.
You know, we're is susceptible to it.
Absolutely.
Who is going to look out for me? Who's going to take TikTok away from me?
No one but
Like,
yourself. Yeah. Well, and that's why they had that big C-SPAN meeting, right, with the owner of TikTok. Because they're like, essentially, like, people were afraid that there were, like, spies or whatever the hell, like, China. Because remember, they asked the owner, I don't know if you ever saw that video, but they asked the like, CEO / owner of TikTok of, like, his origins, and he's like, I'm from, like, Malaysia or something. They kept asking him about China. He's like, I don't know. I'm from Malaysia. And they kept bringing up Chinese, like, influences and stuff. He's like, I don't know. Like, that's not, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, they can start inserting stuff, you know, like, you never know. So,
Well, I heard that I guess we can shut it down after this, but when it comes to TikTok, like, so it is a Chinese-run organization.
Yep.
Like, in China, they have control over what you see, right? And so one of the theories there is that TikTok is almost a way to, like, sabotage our culture
Yes.
by just feeding us tons of
Yes.
bullshit. Because over in China, they have TikTok, but it'll be, like, kids doing shit. Like, they'll swipe and they'll see kids playing chess or, like, winning karate competitions,
Correct.
like, stuff that is good influence.
beneficial.
And will put their kids on the right path. And then
Yes.
over here, it's just all, like, bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that is extremely effective, man. I mean, that can totally destroy our society. And it's like, is there anything, like, illegal about that? Like, no. You know, we're kind of doing it to ourselves in a way.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I guess anything you see just influences you.
Like
over
eating
time.
the cats and dogs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unreal. So,
All right, man. That was a long one. So that's it for this week. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, please subscribe. That's the best way that you can support this show. And we post multiple videos every day on TikTok and on YouTube. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.